I was also approaching 36. And you know what they
Mhm.
say about turning 35, it's downhill after that.
Downhill, geriatric.
Yes.
Step right up, folks. You're now entering It's a Circus, where parenting isn't always a show stopping act, but it's certainly entertaining. I'm your host, Elsa, here to prove that no one really knows what they're doing. And that's perfectly fine. Let's have some real conversations, peel back the layers, and remind you that you're never alone in the madness. Let's get the show rolling. What a gift it is to have Jaclyn here with us to share her story. You are going to get so much out of this. It is absolutely wonderful. And I'd like to start off with her bio. So, Jaclyn is a wife, mom of two, and the voice behind Family with a Gap, a blog that shares the real and raw experiences of raising kids with a 12-year age difference. After walking a long and emotional road through secondary infertility, Jaclyn created her platform to offer encouragement, honest storytelling, and a connection for other moms navigating similar journeys. She writes about motherhood, family life, and the beauty and chaos of parenting kids into very different stages of life. My conversation was fantastic. You will get a wealth of information and really hear kind of this raw heartache and triumph as Jaclyn walks through her story. She became pregnant with her second child at the beautiful age of 40, and she talks about parenting at that stage versus when she was 28 with her first child, and all the kind of time in between and what that encapsulated, and her learnings. And her blog is absolutely fantastic. She is in the middle of launching some really exciting things that she wants to serve her community and all of us. Let's get into this story.
Hello, welcome, Jaclyn, to It's a Circus podcast. And I would love to hit you with my question to get us kicked off. And that is, what are your mamahood stats?
I am a mom to a 15-year-old boy who is in ninth grade. Well, just finished his ninth grade year. He's going to be starting 10th grade, of course. And a very feisty 3-year-old that is almost 4. She'll be 4 in a couple of weeks. Huge age gap for us, but that's part of our story and mostly why we're here, I guess, to talk about how we ended up with the 15-year-old and the 3-year-old.
Yes, I am dying to dive in. I think the one thing that I would love to know as you weave through the story was, did you always want to be a mother?
Yes, for as
Okay.
long as I can remember. My mom was a stay-at-home
Oh.
mom, and we loved obviously having her home. I have one older brother. I did go to college. I'm a graduate of the University of Florida
Mhm.
and originally was going to do nursing, but ended up in health
Oh.
education. I did my
Mhm.
internship actually at the YMCA in their gymnastics department, helping run their recreational gymnastics department. So, pretty much worked around kids my whole life. I was a nanny as well when I came home from college to a precious little girl. I had her from when she was 2 weeks to almost 4 full time.
Oh.
She's in college now, so we can talk about how old that makes me. But yeah, I always wanted to be a mom and
Ah.
couldn't wait to get married and start having a
Mhm.
family, which actually happened very easily with my son. My
Mhm.
husband and I got married in March of 2008, and I was pregnant, got pregnant Thanksgiving Day the same year. And Kale was born August 2009, the following year.
Mhm.
So, no
Mm.
issues getting pregnant. It was a dream, started trying, and 2 months later, there he was. So, never expected that the following year, we started trying again in the summer of 2010, just before he turned 1, and then nothing. And months went by, years went by, and it just completely blew us away after it being so easy the first time with him.
Wow. So you have a blog now, and can you tell us the name of your blog? Because I think it's so powerful.
It is familywithagap.com.
So familywithagap.com, and obviously this isn't something that you thought you were the journey of motherhood was. So familywithagap.com is about secondary infertility. Can you tell us, one, as you're trying all of the things that you've tried, what happened? What was your experience talking to doctors and figuring out what was going on? What what really can you walk us through those first couple months and years and as things progressed?
Yeah, of course. I am totally the type of person and always have and still am, even more so now. The everything happens in its own time, God's
Right.
time, if you will. We're not super religious family, but do believe that God's timing has a lot to do with many, many things in your life. So I started out, I refused to track my ovulation. I just was like, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Let's not go crazy about this. As the months pass and nothing happens, all of the thoughts start creeping in and the stress starts creeping in. And it's very, very weighing on your marriage too, obviously.
Right.
Everybody's frustrated, nobody understands. Being intimate with your husband starts to become a chore, whereas, that's not how that's supposed to be either. But
Mhm.
so yeah, I went from just letting it be to starting to track everything. And then finally in 2015, I believe it was, I went to an infertility specialist at USF in Tampa and had all the testing done. You're hoping there's an answer, but then
Right.
you don't want there to be something wrong unless it's an easy
Right.
fix.
Right.
And after all the testing, there was nothing. They couldn't pinpoint any reason. So then you go back to, okay, it's just
Oh
not
my
meant to be.
gosh. Wow.
So we decided to do a couple of rounds of IUI, which is the artificial insemination. Husbands are not fans of this, I'm sure, as mine was not. The first time at the doctor's office, he had to do the collection there, which was awful, absolutely
Yeah.
awful. And obviously it didn't work. The second time we tried to do it at home, but we were living in Sarasota, doctor's offices in
Mhm.
Tampa, you only have an
Right.
hour to collect it and get it there.
Oh
Well,
my gosh. Okay.
yes, I kid you not, I pull onto I-75 that morning, it's shut down.
Mm.
And I have the
No.
collection like in my lap, trying to get to the doctor. So again,
My
you're
gosh,
just beat
Jackie.
before you start, and you're like, this is what is God telling me? You know?
Yeah.
So I didn't make it. The collection was no good when I finally got there.
Oh
And that
my
just
gosh.
broke me.
Oh,
Yes. So everything was put on hold again. No more doctors. Just went back to if it happens, it happens. I can't torture myself, with this any longer. So, but I was also approaching 36. And you know what they
mhm.
say about turning 35, it's downhill after that.
Downhill, geriatric.
Yes. And that's actually a very comical story from when I finally did get pregnant at 40. All the geriatric comments are great.
Oh God. Hmm.
But so, yeah, we put everything on hold. I had always said IVF was not in the cards. I was always very apprehensive about all of the medications, the hormones, everything that they have
Right.
to pump into you
Right.
for
Hmm.
IVF and what that can do to your body. Does it
Yeah.
cause breast cancer? Does it cause ovarian cancer? I mean, some say yes, some say no. Do
Hmm.
we really know? IVF is a very uh, income producing process for a lot of people.
Totally.
So,
Totally.
yeah, so the following year in 2016, still not pregnant. My son is now turning 8 that year. And I do want to say through all of this, I was the most grateful, happy mom in the entire world. I was so thankful to have him. I
Mhm.
felt so incredibly blessed to have him because there are so many people who have none. And here I
Right.
am with
Right.
this perfect little boy, sweetest little boy in the entire
Mhm.
world. And that's really what got me through all of it. Was just having him, loving him, feeling fortunate for him. And I never really let any of the jealousy or envy of other people's pregnancies creep in, which was
Right.
difficult. But I'm a super positive person and I never wanted to
Mhm.
let that type of negativity infiltrate me. I don't
Mhm.
think that that's good for anybody. And again, I was so much more fortunate than so many people to have my son. So
Mhm.
I did make an appointment with Dr. Babone in Sarasota. I think he's changed the name of his doctor's office. I wrote it down here. It's called the Fertility Center and Applied Genetics now, and it's
Mhm.
on Cattleman here in Sarasota. So we
Mhm.
met with him in the summer of 2016
Mhm.
and went through all the testing again and came back nothing again.
Oh my
Everything's fine.
gosh.
Shouldn't have an
So
issue.
when you say that you do testing, is it you and your husband or just you?
Both. Yeah. So
Okay.
there's,
Yeah.
yeah, nothing wrong with him and then nothing wrong with me. And Dr. Babone takes it actually one step further too. And he did a full genetic screening on me for I don't know how many hundreds of different genetic abnormalities that I could be carrying. And there was nothing, not one thing popped up, which was fantastic.
You're happy for that.
Right. Yeah, super happy and but just still dumbfounded by it all. So, he looks at me and says, the only answer is declining egg quality, due to your age.
Mhm.
But we've been at this since 29 years old
Right.
and nothing. So that's scary in itself. But on the flip side, hey, maybe you're going to be a perfect candidate for IVF. They do all of the testing. We could get the embryos tested before they're implanted, all of this thing. So I'm like, perfect. This is it. We're going to take all the guesswork out of everything. We're going to fertilize the embryos and we're going to put them in there at the right time
Right.
with the right hormones. So my son, being 8 now and always wanting a sibling, I was extremely open with him with all of this. So when I brought home all the medications, the shots, all of that stuff, he did everything with me. He helped me. He knew, what we were doing and what the goal was going to be for having a sibling. And, we all stayed positive. I had 14 eggs that were retrieved. 10 of those were good enough to be fertilized.
Wow.
8 of them took to the fertilization, and then they let them grow. So they have to grow, I believe it was 5 days, maybe. I can't remember the
Mhm.
length of time. But by the end, we only had 2 that had continued to
Okay.
grow and seemed to be normal.
Mhm.
So you have the option with IVF to do a fresh transfer with the eggs immediately or a frozen transfer. But if you want to have the genetic testing done on the embryos for any chromosomal abnormalities, Down syndrome, that sort of thing, you have to do a frozen transfer because they have to send the embryos off and have them checked and then they come back to them. So we opted for that. And out of the 2, only 1 was normal.
Mm.
So here we were again. We went through all of this. I said, I'm only doing this one time. Whatever happens, happens. And we ended up with the 1 embryo. So you're just like, oh my gosh, is this good? Is this bad? Is this the one? We had the option of finding out if it was a girl or a boy, but I chose not to know. I felt like the process may be harder if it didn't work, if I knew and had that
Oh,
attachment to
sure.
a
Mhm.
gender. We, of course, didn't care either way, which gender it was. My son was obviously hoping for a little brother.
Of course.
And
Yeah, of
my
course.
husband probably was too. So yeah, we didn't find out. And then the coolest part about all of it is the day that my transfer was scheduled for was December 15th. And that's the day that I had found out that I was pregnant with my son back in 2008. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
this is it. It's the sign. This is going to
Mm-hmm.
work. Everything is going to be perfect. So we had the transfer December 15th. You have to
Mm-hmm.
wait, I guess it's 11 days, 10 days technically, but that would have been
Mm-hmm.
Christmas to do the blood test. So I had the blood test the day after Christmas, and they
Mm.
called the afternoon and said it didn't take. And that was it.
Oh,
And our IVF journey was over.
Jaclyn.
My husband, I think my husband probably took it the hardest. My
Oh,
son, obviously, as well. And I think you just find yourself with so many more questions than answers. So that was a hard time, a hard day. And, I dove back into work and our daily grind. My son was already playing travel baseball. He was busy as he could be, and we just went back at it. So, let me see. Do you have any questions about any of that before I jump
oh
forward?
my gosh. Okay, yes, I have so many. And one, thank you for sharing your story, Jaclyn. Literally, I like got choked up a couple times as you were talking just because just as a witness to that story, it's emotional. So living it, oh my goodness, I can't even imagine. So I think there's a couple things I wanted to break down. One, you were actively trying. So you were not tracking, but trying. Then you were tracking and trying. And then you went to the doctor and you were like, I actually now need answers. And with the IUI process, you tried twice and then let it go. And then what brought you back to like a fertility doctor?
Just the fact that I firmly believed that I was running out of time with, I was already 35, turning 36 in
Mm-hmm.
2016. And I guess I never wanted to go back and say I didn't do everything that I could. I struggle with forcing things, because
Mm-hmm.
going back to the everything happens for a reason, what if it's just not meant to be for me to have two kids or three kids or however many kids? And what if it's not meant to be for my son to have a sibling for whatever reason? I mean,
Right.
and you start
Right.
projecting, like, what if something's going to happen to me? And now I
Oh
have two
gosh.
kids without a mother, or I mean, the stuff that goes through your mind is,
Of course.
oh my gosh. And
Mm-hmm.
I have a cousin who is a pastor up in Canada.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I actually called him and I asked
Mm-hmm.
him, what are your thoughts with
Mm-hmm.
just letting things be? God can do what he can do, and obviously isn't doing anything in this situation. Or should I try IVF? Because I feel like that's just forcing something that's not meant to be. And his answer to me was simple. He was like, God's responsible for the creation of all of the science and IVF and
Yeah.
everything that's here to help people. And that's the defining moment that I decided, okay, let's try this once and see what happens. And we could have had four embryos or eight embryos, and we could have, tried multiple times, but just ending with that one embryo, again, I just took it as a sign, and that was it. And I didn't want to harm my body and cause, something to happen to me and then not be there for my son. So that was
Right.
another reason why I'm like, all right, I'm not going to do all this again with all this medication and starting over again with that. So, yeah, that's how we ended up back at the infertility specialist.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I think some of the questions that you're bringing up that you have asked yourself, I am sure that there are people that have asked themselves that same thing or think about that same exact question around life of and the creation of life, especially when it comes to us carrying children, is around this idea of you know, can we utilize, and I love the advice that your cousin gave you, could I utilize this science expertise that was created to, help with that creation of a human versus the idea of, oh, I don't want to rely on that. I am just going to move forward. So I think those questions are really interesting. And the fact that he gave you that advice, I mean, that's very empowering just to hear.
Yes, for sure. And I think that there's a lot as I look back and reflect, and I'm a part of a group on Facebook called Secondary Infertility, and I've been in that group for a long, long time. And I think honestly, I may have gotten out when I was pregnant with Charlotte, the baby, but then I went back in to be a source of hope and light. And so I am still part of the group. I would read a lot of women's comments talking about different reasons why they think that they're not getting pregnant, or other women that would post what I changed and I finally became pregnant after all this time. So
Wow.
one thing that was going on with me through all of this is I worked 60 plus hours a week from when my son was little. And
Hmm.
so all through these years of trying and trying and trying, my schedule was I was up every morning at 4:30 on the computer, worked all day, and it was pretty much 7 days a week. I had gotten to the point where I would get up
Wow.
every Saturday and Sunday morning and work for hours before anybody else got up. I had not an issue because it never was an issue, but I think that it may be have been an issue. When I was pregnant with Kale, my son, I started losing weight from the beginning of the pregnancy. So it went from the whole joke with my husband. In the first trimester, I'm eating ice cream every day and desserts. And he's, oh my God, you better not be a huge fat pregnant person. To
Yeah.
by the time I was 6 months, he's at the doctor with me because I am literally skin and bones with a
Oh
baby
my
bump.
gosh.
And I gained 19 pounds with him
Wow.
only, and I only gained 14 with Charlotte this last pregnancy.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
yes, it was like they just sucked the life out of
Hmm.
me
Right.
when they
Like
were going
all your nutrients, they're just like, it's mine.
everything.
Yeah.
It's fine. And he wasn't a
Wow.
big baby. He was
Hmm.
7 pounds, 10 ounces.
Oh,
So he
yeah.
wasn't a big baby. But then more importantly, after I had him, so I was 150 pounds, 150 pounds when I got pregnant with him. I worked out all the time.
Hmm.
I was in great shape.
Hmm.
Um, After he was born, it didn't matter what I did, what I ate, I dropped down to 118 pounds from 150 normal weight.
Whoa.
I was a
Yeah.
size zero clothes,
My
like
God.
just
Hmm.
skin and bones. So, in looking back at that, I'm like, was my weight an issue? Like, my body just knew, hey, you can't be pregnant at this weight. You already lost so
Hmm.
much weight. So, I always wondered if that was an issue, coupled with the fact of my stress from work and how much I did
Right.
work. So, in looking at the in reading people's posts too, a lot of women had said, I just finally quit my job. I'm staying home and I am going to focus on me and getting healthy, exercising, and seeing if I can get pregnant. So, summer of 2017 comes. We're like 6 or 7 months past the IVF not working. And my husband gets a promotion that would require us to move from Sarasota. And in doing so, I would be leaving my job because I ran my brother's company here in town.
Hmm.
And so I would essentially becoming a stay-at-home mom, which has never
Hmm.
happened before.
Hmm.
So we ended up, my husband left in August that year. My son and I stayed here and until December. He did half of his third grade year here. And then we
Hmm.
moved to Gainesville, Florida. So not far,
Hmm.
but moved away. And I became a stay-at-home mom.
Hmm.
I It was fantastic. I
Hmm.
didn't even myself. I went to the gym every day. I
Mhm.
I walked, I had dinner ready, did all the things. Picked my son up from
Mhm.
school every day, took him at all his practices. It was fantastic. And the one thing that had been happening year after year after year, eventually, is my weight was finally creeping back up. It was like would gain a
Mhm.
couple pounds every year.
Mhm.
So I'm approaching 40. We're living in Gainesville. I'm home. I'm relaxed. I'm exercising all the time. I'm finally about to hit that 150 weight that I was when I got pregnant with Kale, and I'm approaching my 40th birthday. I get pregnant a month after I turn 40, naturally. Yeah. I'm like, what is going on? I didn't even tell my husband that I had missed my period because, I mean, how many pregnancy tests had we taken over the years?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So it was the day after Halloween. It was November 1st. It was a Sunday. And I said to him, I'm like, my period's 2 or 3 weeks late. And he's,
Mhm.
what? And I'm like, listen, I'm 40. I'm probably perimenopause. I mean, I don't know what's going on. And
Exactly.
we have to go get a test. And we were going out to run errands. We were going to Home Depot. So we stopped by CVS on the way home. And he's like beside himself, jumping up and down. And I go in there and I take it, and it's instantly positive. And it's
Mm.
the first positive pregnancy test that I have seen since 2008, and it's
Oh my God.
2020. Yes, my son is
Jacqueline.
11. And we couldn't even contain ourselves. I mean, I probably, in hindsight, probably shouldn't have told my son, but we were just like, oh my gosh, here it is. And
Uh-huh.
so we told him immediately. He is sobbing. Like we're sitting at the
Oh
kitchen
my
table in
God.
the house, and I don't think that he even believed us at first.
Mhm.
So he calls my parents. He's crying so much my parents can't even understand him. They think something terrible has
Mm.
happened. And he finally spits it out. And it was just like the biggest, oh my gosh moment ever that you could imagine. But
Mm.
then all I can think about is they told me my eggs were terrible. Is she going
Mhm.
to be, we don't know, obviously, if it's a girl or a boy, is the baby going to be okay? I'm 40 years
Mhm.
old.
Mhm.
And so all that stuff starts creeping in.
Mm.
Okay. So of course, it's like you have to find a doctor, you have to figure out all of the things. And we never did any testing, believe it or not, with Kale. When I got pregnant with him, I went to the most old school doctor here in town. He's retired now. I think I had the one ultrasound to find out if he was a girl or a boy. It was so like grainy and bad that you could barely even see anything. We're like, are you sure it's a boy? So no testing to make sure, he was fine or anything. But now here we are, 40, with all I've been told for years is I have terrible eggs. But what do you do? Do you have all the testing? Do you, just let it be and see what happens? So I was able to get into a doctor right away. Oh, and we had COVID going on with this still because we're in
Oh God,
2020.
of course. Of course. Of course. Yes. Can't forget about that wrinkle in
Oh
all the
my God,
plans.
the COVID.
Yes.
Which was funny too, because you would hear all these stories of people getting pregnant, like so many more people getting pregnant because everybody's
Right.
home. And that was another
Yes.
factor actually too, because my husband traveled a ton when we lived in
Mhm.
Gainesville. He was gone a lot, but with COVID, he was shut down and he was just home. We were all home.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a contributing factor too.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I went to the doctor obviously right away. They recommended obviously having every test you know to man.
Mhm.
I mean, every time I showed up there, we need to check for this and we need to check for that. So we found out through the blood tests that they had to do. Gosh, I was probably, I don't even know how many weeks. It was so, 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 so early that she was a girl.
Mhm.
We
My
did the
God.
whole baseball reveal. Literally, I came home from the doctor that day with the envelope, and we did the baseball reveal in our front yard that afternoon, like with nobody there, just on video. And It was Charlotte, and she was healthy and she was perfect and she was fine. And that's probably the most amazing thing to share with women who are so incredibly fearful of having a baby after 40. I mean, she
Right.
was born 2 months before my 41st birthday. And she is the smartest, funniest, sassiest, craziest little girl you can even dream of having. So, yeah, I feel like
Oh
I'm
my
forgetting lots of.
gosh.
Oh, we moved back to Sarasota during the whole
Okay.
pregnancy too, to be by my family. So she ended
Yeah.
up bringing us back here, which was nice to bring us back home.
I love it. And oh my gosh, so sweet. And I want to talk a little bit about pregnancy after 40 in a minute. But first, I kind of want to talk about just this idea around work and stress. Did you talk when you were working through, trying to decide, trying to find out if there is any issues? Did a conversation with a medical professional around stress in your life come up at all?
Not that I remember. And maybe that's partly my fault because
Hmm.
I have always been the type of person that is like, I should be able to handle all things.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And
Please.
stress, like
Yeah.
what's stress? You know,
Right. Right.
I do suffer from anxiety. I always have
Yep.
suffered from anxiety ever since college. My
Mm-hmm.
husband is not a real believer in that. I get the if I tell him I'm like feeling anxious, I get the eye roll. Oh my God, please.
Yeah. Right.
But so I probably did a really good job of hiding that. I
Mhm.
wasn't the type of person that would walk in the doctor and be like, "Oh, poor me. I work so many hours. I have a little boy. I do this, I do that, or do that." I mean, I have, I always try to present, everything in a positive light. So that may have been on me. But I do think it's something that they should ask because if you asked, you probably would open up and say, you're right. This is what my life is, my schedule. Maybe I could cut some things back here and there to make, a difference or an adjustment. Working for
Yeah,
family too creates its own demand.
I'm sure. And the thread that I'm following from what you're talking about is that may have played an impact, the stress of everything may have played an impact into the overall health of who you are. And I think what you're saying, and even as you're saying it, Jaclyn, I mean, I am like nodding along because I'm right there with you. The same thought of, well, who am I to say that this is stressful? Like everybody else is doing it. I've got it. Or, let's just, dig deep and move on. And wondering if, holistically, when you talk about the health of just who you were at the moment that you became pregnant, working out, eating healthy, balancing, life in a way that had a little bit less stress to it. I'm just wondering if it sounds like you're saying that you feel like that made a difference.
I for sure do. And you
Yeah,
wonder, was it just the perfect storm with my body felt like it was at its ideal weight to be able to carry
right,
another child. If I showed
right.
you, and I can't show you because I'm like practically nude, but if I showed you a picture of me the night before I delivered Charlotte, I mean, I am skin and bones.
Wow.
Absolutely skin and bones.
Mhm.
And in fact, the first time when I walked into the hospital with Kale to have him, my water had broken in the evening. And when I walked in, the nurse was like, "Why are you here?" And I said, "My water broke. I'm here to have him." She had this look of panic on her face, and I'm like, "What is wrong?" She's like, "When are you due?" Because my belly was just like this tiny little ball. And I'm like, "Now, we're here. It's full. It's go time. We're full term." And then, like I said, with her, I was just even smaller. I mean, I can't imagine how balled up they were in there because it was just the tiniest, smallest little stomach ever. And I know people were probably like, this is so ridiculous, but I don't know why it happened.
Right. Yeah, no. And I think that's okay to say. It's like you acknowledging, hey, when I'm carrying, this is, the typical path of both pregnancies. They're like pulling all of your nutrients, and that's how your
Everything.
body's reacting to it. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, and I didn't,
Wow.
fortunately, after I had her, I didn't
Yeah.
lose any additional weight and everything
Mhm.
was fine. It was totally different than with him, but yeah, just crazy what your body does. And it made me realize too, for a lot of women who go the other way. My mom
Yeah.
is smaller than me, a little bit
Mhm.
shorter, and was always thinner than me. She gained
Mhm.
50 pounds with both of us. And
Mhm.
she was eating healthy, she was exercising, but there was nothing she could do. So
Right.
it makes you really see, hey, this woman is not gaining weight because she's eating every single thing in sight all day long. It's just
Mhm.
hormones and what your body does, and you can't control it.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I think that's just a good message to remember always. And actually, I haven't had a conversation like this much, but I hope to dive deep into this at some point. Is just, you're honoring, and what I'm hearing from you, Jaclyn. So tell me if that's not quite right, but just honoring what your body is going to do in that process, I think is something just as a society we don't necessarily do. So, like you're saying, hey, I'm honoring my body becoming like sucked dry from these babies. And other people, you know, are honoring like, their hunger, or they're honoring like their cravings, because it's somewhere in their body, your body's craving a nutrient. And so if that craving is for me, it was like red meat, which I know could be triggering for some people, but I had to have a steak. I had to have a burger. I could not have red meat. It was insane. Even for breakfast, I was like, this is all my body wants to eat. It doesn't want anything else. It just needs a medium rare steak. And that's what that's what I'm gonna do. And so I think that there has been, I think, a lot of conditioning for us to be a certain way, look a certain way, go through pregnancy a certain way, whether it's trying to stay in shape, not stay in shape. And it's like you have to honor whatever your unique journey is. And I think that, you sharing that is so good and so powerful.
For sure. And, the same thing with exercise. I mean, some women feel like they can go out and exercise every day, and other women feel like it's all they can do is lay on the couch and grow their human, and I don't think that there's a right or wrong with any of it. And your body absolutely tells you, I think in most situations, what it needs, and you just have to roll with it. I ate McDonald's and drank sodas when I was pregnant with the second one, and I would never have done that with the first one. I
Uh,
remember calling my dad. I would literally leave the gym and I would be on the phone with my dad, and he's like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "I am at the McDonald's drive-through." And he's, "You cannot be giving her that." And I'm like, "Yeah, she's gonna be fine. This is what I want today." What's funny too is I did not drink any soda with my son.
hmm
He still to this day does not drink anything but water. It was water and milk when he was small. Hates anything carbonated. And I was sick
Interesting.
with Charlotte. Didn't feel well a lot of the time. And I did drink soda here and there. And she is like a little soda fiend. I have to hide
Yeah.
it. She'll be like, "Is that Coke?" I'm like, God, it's so bad. So I don't know. She craves it because she had it. I don't know. It's bad.
Oh
I
my God,
probably,
that's so hilarious.
I know.
Yeah,
It's so,
one of it's so funny. I also drank soda with my second, not with my first. And I did one, you crave it. I don't know. I was like needing carbonation and like
yes.
that like strange flavor that I don't know. I understand. And I my first pregnancy though, all I wanted was ice cream. So literally I've been like,
That's
you are made of ice cream. You were built out of ice cream. Go you. There's
That's my
nothing else for
son
you
too.
except ice cream.
I
Yeah.
ate ice cream every single day with him. Not with her though, but yeah, with him. And he eats a ton of ice cream
Uh,
too.
oh my gosh, hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay, and then relationship wise, I think this is something that I love to get into because we talk about whatever our motherhood journey is. And oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes, there's a relationship dynamic that is happening as you enter that motherhood journey. And I think oftentimes that can define how your support is, the choices that you make, all of that, in a partnership. If you're entering parenthood in a partnership, there's a lot that you're relying on from a relationship standpoint. So, as you think about that gap, as you guys were navigating all of the choices that you did, do you have advice for any partner that's maybe watching, someone that's going to carry their potential child, of what support is needed for that person going through it?
This is a hard question for me because I am, again, go back to the I don't need anybody's help. I can do everything myself. I probably, with me,
Yeah.
I I need somebody who recognizes, okay, this is when I need you to step in. I know I haven't asked you for help. I know I don't ask you for help. I'm not good at asking for help. But do you see that I'm drowning here right now?
Right.
So just maybe as a partner being able to recognize those signs, like I'm not okay. Everything's not okay. Everything is piling up on me. I do My husband was really funny about me being pregnant, as far as it's probably the only time in our marriage that he has taken the like protector role. No, you can't do
Mhm.
that. You can't do this. You have to be
Mhm.
so careful. And especially more so with Charlotte. And I
Yeah.
think, just waiting so long for her. But that's obviously really nice. Just taking some of the weight off, during the pregnancy and moving into that protector role.
I think one of the things I'm hearing, and I think a lot of people would identify it with, is sometimes, especially if you're that person who is, independent, self sufficient, and that can be an identity. You can pride yourself on that. There are moments in time where if you are really stuck in that, it's really hard to recognize when you do need help. And so having a partner that can, take a step back and be like, ooh, maybe she is, needing a little bit more support than normal, I think is great advice for people. Or during that time to be sent, just extra aware that that may be a requirement.
Yeah. And what I need to be better at, and I think maybe some women who are like me is the same, is being able to ask for help, for sure. Because, like I said, that's not something, I mean, my mom is right here. We moved back here to be close to my mom and dad. My brother is here, and
Mhm.
I'm still not great at asking for help.
Yeah.
And I I don't know why that is. I don't know why.
Mhm.
I actually made a list of things that I'm not great at. Well, for
You're
women, and
like, just
especially,
to add to the list. Well, no, I agree. And you know what? I was just gonna say, I don't think it's anything we fault ourselves with. I think we need to realize and acknowledge that there was a time in our lives, essentially, I believe when we were growing up, where everyone was like, you can do anything you want to. You need to be a strong, independent woman. This is how you do that alone. This is how you do that in a relationship. This is how you do that, as the head of your family. These are, I think that has been fed to us over and over in a well meaning way, in a very positive way. And I think sometimes life can take a turn and we twist it and it becomes a little bit more toxic than it really should be.
yeah, for sure. And I think that that's a perfect explanation for it. And you still, I still hear people saying that today, especially with, I don't know if you're on any of the like Sarasota Moms group or anything, but I mean, I would say a huge portion of the posts every day in Sarasota Moms group is that I'm leaving my husband, I'm going through a divorce. So, and I think that we are still teaching our girls, and I guess maybe as you should, that you can't rely on somebody. Like you need to get your
Mhm.
education, you need to have a job. And I think too, a lot of that comes with now, I mean, for most people living on one income, especially in our area where we are,
Right.
is not even feasible anymore.
Mm-mm.
It's crazy. And that makes me sad too, because I do think, by a woman's choice, it's so great for moms to be able to be home and take care of their family and their kids. And do I agree with even at Charlotte's age now, she's almost 4. Yes, she should be at school. She's learning, she's interacting with little people her age and doing all those things. I think that that's fantastic too. But then where do you balance, okay, it costs a fortune to send her there, and now I want to stay home and not work. It's it's kind of a toss up, what do you
Like
do?
a damned if you do, damned if you don't. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I had a friend ask me yesterday. He said to me, he was like, "You work part-time and your daughter goes to school. Like, how does that balance? Is it even worth
Mhm.
it?" And I guess that's one of those things. It is worth it because she is in such a great environment. She's going to be so ready for kindergarten and she loves it. She loves being with all the
Right.
little people.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I mean, we don't ever know if we're making the right decisions for our kids. We can only hope and pray that we are.
Y- Yeah, it's so true. And I think there's so much complexity in those decisions, and it's so personal, yet I feel like there's so much judgment that comes no matter what you decide, right? No matter
Yes.
what you decide, there is a judgment from somewhere on the other side fighting for those reasons. And it really does take some internal strength and knowing what is best for you and your family when you are faced with those decisions.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, I would love to talk to you about carrying a baby when you're 40 versus
Oh, yes. I
carrying
didn't.
a baby when you are not 40, not even close to 40. So tell us about those differences.
So, from a physical standpoint, I know obviously when I was got pregnant with Kale, I was in good shape, exercising, doing all that. So going into both pregnancies, fortunately, was the same starting point. I had been going to the
Mhm.
gym, walking, doing all that, which I was extremely thankful for. I definitely was way more cautious with the exercising and the working out with Charlotte, just strictly because of my age, not because I was in any less of shape, but
Mhm.
the waiting for her for so long. I was fortunate to have very, very easy pregnancies as far as no complications. The main difference between him and her, I never had an ounce of morning sickness with Kale.
Mhm.
And I was sick in the beginning with her and just exhausted, absolutely
Mhm.
exhausted, which I wasn't with him either. I know we went on vacation with a bunch of friends over Christmas break, that first Christmas when I found out I was pregnant with her, and I was in bed like the majority of the time. I think everybody was so annoyed with me, and I'm like, no, it's fine. I'm just gonna go lay down. We did go horseback riding, and my husband was a complete spaz. This was his protective. He's like, you cannot ride a horse. I'm like, we're literally walking on a horse, like trail walking. We're not out riding a horse. So that was fine. But with her too, the further the pregnancy went, the sicker I got, which I couldn't
Oof.
even believe.
Oof. Yeah.
So yeah, that was the one and only main difference. And it got to the end where I was even struggling to eat anything because I just felt so incredibly awful. But from a physical standpoint, I was fine. The geriatric pregnancy label and going to the doctor all the time. And like I said, I would be there one month and they would say, "Okay, well, I think we're done with all the testing." And then I'd show up the next month and they're like, "You know what? We should probably do this test too, just to be safe
Yeah.
because you're so old." I had to take the
Yeah.
baby aspirin every day, which I was like,
Oh,
"What?" Yeah,
no.
right. Yeah, like I'm waiting for my heart attack to happen. Yeah, I had to take that.
Seriously.
I did have a really hard time with my hemoglobin. I had to get on iron
Okay.
supplements, which are not ever fun.
Yep.
It had gotten so bad that when I left the
Hmm.
doctor for the one visit, they said, if you come back and it hasn't gone up, you're going to have a blood transfusion. It was that bad.
Oh.
So I was able to, yeah. And again, it probably had a lot to do with my diet because I was struggling so badly to eat. Fruit was one of the
Right.
few things that I could eat,
Mhm.
especially in that first trimester with her. So I don't think that she was getting what she needed, probably, as far as the red meat. She could have used a lot of red meat like you were eating. So, you know what the biggest difference too was between the doctor that I had in Gainesville versus the doctor that I switched to in Sarasota. And we were only a month or 6 weeks out from her due date, I think, when we came back. So I
Oh,
went to
wow.
Dr. Towsley when I came back here,
Mhm.
who is amazing, by the way. I know a ton of people who have delivered with him, but he took me willingly. But my doctor in Gainesville, I had a C-section, emergency C-section with Kale. His delivery, that's like a could be its own podcast. His delivery was
Mhm.
horrible. And my doctor in Gainesville at my age was encouraging me to have a VBAC. And which
Okay.
I was strongly considering because I had always wanted to have a natural birth with Kale, like no
Mhm.
epidural, no nothing. And all of that. That's huge advice you could give to a new pregnant mom is don't ever have a birth plan because it's never going to come to fruition.
No.
So, yeah, he was like, we can wait. You can wait and go into labor and try and have a VBAC. The biggest difference, I guess, with C-section versus trying to have natural is after a C-section, you cannot be induced. So we would have had to just wait until I went into labor. So when I switched to Dr. Towsley, he said, no, you are way too old for any of this shenanigans. He said it's super dangerous to go 40,
Mhm.
41, 42 weeks at my age. And he wanted to schedule a C-section, which my
Mhm.
husband wanted to schedule a C-section too. So we went that route. And she was actually born,
Mhm.
ended up being born about 2.5 weeks early because he didn't
Mhm.
want her to go full term. I guess
Mhm.
he says there's a lot of risks involved with being over 40 and full term with stillbirth and
Mhm.
so on.
Yep.
So that was crazy. Totally two different perspectives on
Mhm.
the delivery. So she was born C-section too.
Wow.
And it was a breeze.
Wow. Ugh, that's so nice. Sometimes when the first one is tough, that second one is like a redemption tour. And when it works out that way, that's such a gift. So I'm glad your
Yes.
experience was better. Yeah.
Yeah, Kale's birth
Um,
was no bueno.
oof. Yeah, side note, I went down a spiral on birth stories the other night. I don't know why. It was just like, it came up and then I just kept going and going. There are some real tough ones out there.
Yes. Our best friend's little boy, they live down the street from us. He was born in a car, in their car.
Oh
Yes, he
my
has his
God, I
own
can't
little like
imagine.
news story and everything that his mom plays every year when he was on his birthday. Yeah,
Oh
she
my
was dropping their toddler off at the grandmother's house and she was on her way to the hospital and she walked out of the house and told her husband, "He is coming right now." And he was like, "No, he's not." And she said, "Oh, yes, he is." And she sat in the front seat of the car and popped that sucker right out.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy.
I know. Yeah, he's the
Oh,
same age as my son. They're best buds.
oh, cute. Oh my
I
gosh,
know.
that's
Yeah,
so
birth
crazy.
stories they can be amazing and they can be
Mhm.
awful and scary.
Yeah, totally. And I had a conversation. I'm gonna get her episode out, I think next week, but she is a doula. So she's talking about all the births that she's been on. And her kind of big point was your birth story is your birth story, whether it was good or bad or traumatic or not, it doesn't matter. What it is there's no reconciling after somebody goes through that birth story. It's how many times do you say it? How many times do you hold space for somebody to share that? It's not like you talk about it all the time. So I thought that was just really really powerful and an interesting insight into how defining and life defining that story can be, and how oftentimes we either minimize it or not talk about it or not even share it. And I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely something to share. And I try not to tell my story ever to somebody who's pregnant for the first time, just not to traumatize them. And, I think that a lot of what happened with mine, or I know a lot of what happened with mine could have been prevented. So, and with the knowledge that I had when I was having him, I could have prevented it, but I was extremely passive in the situation for whatever reason. And that's a huge regret that I have, and just not using my voice and standing up for what I knew was right at the moment. And I I think I've used that as a kind of a tool in raising my son. Like, I would think back to myself, like, I could have advocated better for him then in that moment. And now when these, situations arise with him, I do speak up and I make sure that I am his voice when I need to be. So it's crazy. And maybe that was my lesson, to make sure in raising him that I I I was there and I did do that for him.
Wow. Yeah, that's beautiful. I know. Okay. Do you want to share that? Do you want to share his story? Do you want
Yeah,
to share
I
your birth
can.
story? I'd
Yeah,
love
to
that.
scare all the pregnant new moms.
Okay, well, we can do a warning because I do think that's important for some stories. And just note, you are here, you are thriving, and your son is thriving. So,
Yes, he is I mean, yeah, he's huge. I know I said he wasn't big when he was born. Well, he was long. He is 15. He is 6'1"
oh
and
my God.
175 pounds. Yeah, he's a big, big boy. His sister is
Hmm.
a peanut. She's tiny, which is
Hmm.
hilarious. She looks just like him. They're
Hmm.
like clones of each other, but
Cute.
she is itty bitty. I just looked up recently because she's going for her 4-year-old checkup. She
Hmm.
is the size now that he was at his 2-year-old checkup.
Oh,
She's
no.
turning 4. Yes, she's 30 pounds only. She's
Oh my
itty
God.
bitty.
Yeah, she is itty bitty.
It's so funny. I
Oh.
don't know which, I mean, my husband's not tall, but we have a lot of tall people on his side. But I'm 5'6". I was never small.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, he's itty bitty. So, but yes, Kale's birth story. So, and I'll, I'll give it, not too many gory details. So I had been very, very open with my doctor that I wanted to have a natural birth and try to do no epidural, all
Yeah.
of that.
Hmm.
And, like I mentioned, I felt like I was in great shape physically and,
Hmm.
had the strength to hopefully work through that. And I was so steadfast in my decision that I almost didn't go. I don't even know if they do this anymore, but there was a mandatory video that I had to go and watch about having an epidural. And supposedly, if I didn't watch this video and sign this paperwork, even if I asked for one, they wouldn't give me one. So I'm like, oh my
Oh my
God, I
God.
better just do it just in case. Yeah, they can't even be a real thing now. I can't imagine that it would
I
be.
was like, what year is this?
Right.
Jeez.
I
Yeah.
know. So I did the silly class, watched the video, signed the
Hmm.
paperwork, whatever. So I go in for it was my 40-week appointment. It was on a Monday morning, and my due date was Wednesday, August 19th. So this was August 17th. And of course, I'm in there, I'm bubbly, I'm all excited. I'm like, I can't wait to have this baby, blah, blah, blah. And he's doing my internal exam to check to see if I'm dilated or, anything moving along. Well, all of a sudden, I am in excruciating pain, jump off the table pain. And
Oh my
and I'm
God.
like, what just happened? And he swept my membranes
And didn't tell you.
and didn't ask.
And didn't ask. Oh my God.
And
Okay.
and I'm
That makes me
28 years
so
old
mad.
and I had no idea. And I'm like he I was probably acting just like I'm acting like that right now, like speechless. And well, you said you wanted to have the baby. And I'm like, yeah, I also told you naturally. What are we doing? He's, well, this is just going to speed up the process. And I'm like, oh my God. So I go home, leave the appointment, and I go home. Jason's mom had come into town, I think, that weekend. She was staying at, well, she wasn't staying at her house, but she was at her house for dinner. And I got up from the dinner table that night to walk to the kitchen, and my water breaks all over the floor. And so on one hand, I'm excited because, they say your water breaks, it's go time. You're not going to go to the hospital and they're going to send you home, blah, 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 blah. So the only mistake that I made, which again, I don't know if this is even a thing anymore, as I remember them saying, if your water breaks, you're not supposed to take a shower before you go to the hospital. And I'm like, I'm taking a shower. So I take a shower, pack my stuff. We lived in Parrish at the time, drive to Sarasota
Mhm.
Memorial and get checked in. They tell me that I peed my pants and that my water didn't break. And I'm
Are you
like,
serious?
yes.
Oh my God.
And
I
this
am
was like
already so angry at this. I can't even tell you. Okay.
yeah. And like it was like a mass explosion, obviously, when my water broke. So I'm in the hospital in their triage or whatever, and I'm there for hours. And they're monitoring the
Ugh.
baby. No labor has started. They are using those little testing strips to test for amniotic fluid. They keep telling me there is none and that they don't know what I'm talking about. So then everybody's looking at me. My mom's there, my mother-in-law's there, my husband's there, and I'm starting to think, am I an idiot? Did I really pee my pants? This is what they're telling me. So it's 11 o'clock, I think, 11:30 now at this point, and they're telling me to go home. They're like, you have to go home. Like, you're not in labor, your water didn't break, go home. And so I'm like, fine. We're walking out to the car, and I have a whole nother leakage of amniotic fluid that comes out. My mom is begging me, like, please just go back in. You have to go back in, tell them, And I'm like, Mom, they have already basically told me that I'm crazy. I'm going home. I'm going to bed. I'm exhausted. And and still there's no labor pains. So I'm like, what is happening? So I go home and I go to bed. And I wake up in the morning. They told me to call my doctor. I call my doctor. I go there. He examines me and he's, yes, your water absolutely broke. You have to have this baby. Now it's been like 14 hours. So he sends me straight to the hospital. Now, mind you, again, I didn't want to have any sort of intervention or whatever. Well, now he's been in there with no amniotic fluid,
Right.
and I check in. They have to induce me because there's no labor, and they just turn the Pitocin up as high as it'll go, like full blast. I'm I'm standing there. I'm in so much pain. I can't even sit down, lay down, nothing. I'm standing over a trash can in the hospital room, just vomiting. It's just
Oh.
squeezing, squeezing. I'm throwing up. I'm throwing up. I'm throwing up. Every time I tried to sit down, lay down, his heart rate dropped. And finally, after 7 hours, I did this for 7 hours. I was like, "You got to give me an epidural. Something
Mm.
has to happen. I can't do this anymore." And I think I was maybe 4, 5 centimeters dilated only at the time. And my biggest fear was getting an epidural and then not having any more dilation happen. So I let them do the epidural and everything stopped as soon as they did the epidural. I didn't dilate anymore. So this rocks on until midnight. My doctor's at home, I guess, watching. Yeah, it's close to midnight, and I really haven't had much of anything happen. They're still monitoring him, and then he crashes because he just obviously now it's been what 36, 40 hours something since
Oh,
since my water broke.
yeah.
So it's Tuesday night, about to be Wednesday, which was his due date. And he crashes, and they just rush me to the OR to do a C-section. And which was fine. I'm like, we got to obviously get him out of there. Well, we're in there. My husband's in there. My husband is petrified of any sort of hospitals, blood, anything. They're in there and they're rushing, 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 trying to get him out. They knock off the basin of blood that they have been suctioning
Oh.
out of me. Oh, I forgot the worst part. I'm still throwing up. I'm laying on my back
Oh
on the
my
table
God.
like this, and I'm telling my husband like I'm going to choke to death and die right here on
Yeah.
this table. So I'm still
Oh.
throwing up. He's right there. Then they knock the blood off. It goes all over him. Like he's covered in blood. And so
Is this?
he runs out of the room and to the parents, our parents, and he's completely white as a ghost. He's in shock. He won't talk. They have no idea what's going on. Luckily, they had gotten Kale out. The umbilical cord had been wrapped a couple of times around his belly and down one leg, so he was purple from the waist down. But
And
he
you
was
would
breathing.
have never been able to deliver him vaginally at that point.
No. And what I found out recently too, had I not had that epidural, they would have had to knock me out cold because they can't wait when it's an emergency C-section. They can't wait. They just have to put you out and deliver. So I would have been out completely. But I was in such bad shape anyway after all of this
Oh,
that I
yeah.
didn't get to see him for 3 or 4 hours. They took me to
Mm.
recovery. I don't really even remember anything until the next morning because this was like he was born at 12:28 a.m. So he ended up being born on a zoo date after all of that, which is funny. But yeah, my husband finally told them, "Hey, they're still alive and I think the baby's fine." And he was fine. But it was just a 48-hour nightmare mess.
Nightmare.
But I recovered fine. I was planning on bottle feeding him anyway, which thankfully was the case because I wouldn't have been able to nurse him or do anything. So he was bottle fed, and my husband got to feed him his first bottle. But so consequently, after
Mm.
all of this, my husband did not attend Charlotte's birth. My mom was with me.
He was like, I am so traumatized. That
Yes,
is
he had told
so
me from that
amazing.
moment, he had told me, he was like, if we
Oh.
have any more kids, I am not coming. And he didn't. Yeah. So he's
Well, what
lucky
a
that he
special
didn't wait
moment
to
for
see
your
me.
mom.
Yes, she got to cut her
Exactly.
cord and all that. Yeah, it's funny because it ended up being faster than my husband thought. So him and my son and my father-in-law were at Subway on Bee Ridge when she was born. And I'm like sending him pictures from the table and they're not even in the hospital. So,
Oh my.
and she was fine, obviously, and the C-section was
Yeah.
fine. But yeah, so it's was definitely very traumatizing to say the least. But yeah, he would have never come out.
He
So,
would
and it
have never
makes
come out.
sense that the cord
Wow.
would have been in a bad
Mhm.
situation without any fluid for that long. But I mean, he could have been seriously injured.
Totally. And I mean, thank you for sharing your story, Jaclyn. I think it's so important that we know. And um, you said this before. I'm just going to say it again, is that power of advocacy for yourself. You know yourself better than anybody. Everyone around you could have degree on degree on degree, be the best in their field. It doesn't matter. You yourself are the one that's going to know what is ultimately best for you.
Yes, for sure. And I should have gone back in and demanded, that we start the process that evening rather than waiting. And would the outcome have been different? I don't know.
No,
We
yeah,
don't know
there's no way to know.
how long he was in that condition, but he was born with a little bit of fluid in his lungs too, but
Yeah.
he was fine, obviously. So, but yeah, totally crazy experience. And again, just I don't laugh obviously at new moms when they have their birth plan. You would never want to laugh at somebody, but they need to know, it's
You
probably
need to
not going to
know.
go your way, and that's okay. And you are not a failure when you don't have a natural birth or you decide to get an epidural or it ends in a C-section. Like you just can't control what happens once you're in that environment as much as you would like to. But it's crazy.
Oh, it is crazy. The thing that makes me so angry is that you had a membrane sweep without acknowledgement or asking. That is
Oh,
so violating. It
yes.
is crazy.
Yes. And had he not done that, none of this would have happened.
Agreed. Yeah, none of that would have happened. That is that is
I know
like
I actually read
malpractice.
recently that
That's
somebody,
crazy.
yeah, I'm not an advocate of suing people or doing anything like that, but I just read recently that it is medical malpractice
Yeah.
and that you're not allowed to do that. So anybody, yeah, who's listening, if somebody does that to you, it's not right and it should have never been done. And I had no idea. But and I'm sure because he ended up delivering my son, I'm sure that he knew that he had caused all of that to
Of course.
unravel the way that it did.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, I hope that he learned his lesson. There's no way he couldn't have understood that as your whole birth story played out. There's no way he wouldn't have not picked up on that, but that's
Right,
ridiculous.
for sure. Right. And how many, I mean, had he done it before? Did he do it again after? I mean, I have no idea. He's,
Right.
like I said, he's
Right.
retired now, so nobody has to worry.
Yeah.
But obviously not a good practice and not a legal practice.
And even with that Pitocin to, crank it up so high initially when you're not even in labor, all of that stuff, that is really tough. And I don't know about you. I mean, I did you have any idea what Pitocin was? Did you know that that was a thing before going into the hospital?
I remember
Oh,
having an
well, you're
idea.
nursing, so you have some sort of idea.
Yeah. Well, I only did the pre-nursing stuff at school, but I did work at Shands when I was in Gainesville.
Hmm.
I didn't have any ideas as far as like when they said, "Okay, we're gonna have to just turn this all the way up." I wasn't understanding like that typically it started started as a slow process, and then to make sense to just be so violently. I mean, my stomach was just squeezing and squeezing and squeezing, violently. And how is that good for the baby either? I mean, crazy. He had to have been just in so much stress in there as well.
Hmm.
Yeah, all very unfortunate. And, to have this happen at a good hospital, a world-renowned hospital is even
Right.
crazier. It's not
Yeah.
like we're in some small town place where people don't
No.
know or have the resources.
Right.
So I am thankful,
Ugh.
obviously, to have gone back to Sarasota Memorial and had a good experience with having Charlotte and all that. And like I said, Dr. Towsley was amazing. Super funny guy.
I'm so glad, yes, that you had the opportunity to come back and do it again. And I do think that those stories are important to understand that, there is power in your own educating yourself. There is power in understanding your own body. It is hilarious to even say the word birth plan because there is really no such thing. Your birth is different. You can plan it however you want to, and I can guarantee you nothing will come out as you think. But the focus to understand or the space that you have to have certain aspects that you would want to be honored, I think is important to at least, stick to those as long as you can or have somebody advocating for yourself if you can't.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's probably where, and I don't know the full extent of doulas as far as, can you have how much involvement, little involvement, but just having somebody there who knows the way things should work would be a huge
Yep.
benefit for sure
Yep. Yep.
for anybody.
Yes. For anybody. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the fact that we don't get just that support in general in the room every single time outside of just the medical support, I think is a real miss, just in general.
It is for sure. And I know that there are amazing people that work in Sarasota Memorial
Hmm.
Labor and Delivery, but it is a business and they are busy and
Hmm.
they like to
Yes.
get you in there, get the baby born, and get out.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
having that support to slow that process down. I mean, I was picturing like bouncing on the balls and like laying in the
Mhm.
tub.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, I know that's ridiculous, but I think that that was what I had envisioned, and not that I would have had a
Mhm.
home birth or anything like that, but I just was picturing a very relaxing, slow process that just let itself play out. But I guess I was doing that at home in bed, sleeping with my water breath.
I mean, hey, you advocated for your rest. Sometimes you have to do that too. So I get it.
I am going to bed. But when I woke up and wasn't in labor still, I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on? But my body just wasn't ready. It was not ready to do that.
It wasn't ready for the membrane sweep, and that was
No.
against it. Yeah. Wild.
Yeah.
That makes me so
Crazy.
angry. Yeah, that is crazy. And I think it's important that you share. I think it's important that people are aware that those are things that can happen. And woof, again, stand in your power and your wishes and your values and, you know, do what you need to do. I want to I want you to talk about why you started your blog, Jaclyn, and I
Hmm.
want you to talk about what it is, why you started it, because one, I think one, I told you this already offline, and I'm just going to say it all the time because family with a gap is just such a beautiful way to put it, and I'd love for you to talk about it.
Yeah. So it came to be, how long ago was it? This maybe it's probably 2 years ago. I wrote our story and had it published on Grown and Flown. I don't know if you're familiar with.
What? I am not.
Yeah, it's a really cool, I guess it's a blog, parents resource. And I must have been online reading other people's stories. And my mom was a writer. She went to school for writing. She only wrote one book. She self-published it. And unfortunately, it was so long ago that we didn't have all the resources for, selling on Amazon and doing all these things. So it
Mm-hmm.
didn't really take off or come to fruition. And I actually was thinking the other day about it, and there are so many cool resources that she should probably take it and try and do something with it now. And I don't know why I didn't think
Literally, you
about.
took the words right out of my mouth. I was like, go do it now.
Yeah, I was thinking, my daughter found a copy of it and was flipping through it the other day,
Oh,
and she calls my mom Dee instead of grandma because when Kale was little, he couldn't say G's and it kept coming out D, and she's
mhm.
just been Dee now. That's what they call her.
So
So she was
cute.
saying, "This is Dee's book. This is Dee's book," and she was playing with it. And yeah, I should talk to her about that because that would be really cool for her to do. So she was a writer, and I guess never really even realized how much I enjoyed writing. And I wrote that article and it's on my blog now, but I sent it to them and they published it. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. And I know that it just seems like there's so many women out there that are suffering from secondary infertility alone because people assume when they see you and you have a child or two children or three children that everything's fine. You have your children, you obviously are capable of having children, so nobody even really asks. And I think a lot of women probably feel guilty even expressing that they're sad that they can't have more kids when there are so many people without
Yeah.
children. So I think that it really is something that needs to be talked about more. And when I was actually researching some of the statistics of secondary infertility before we did this blog, I found that it is just as common now as primary infertility, which I even had
Wow.
no idea. Yeah, it says
Yeah.
11% of couples in the US suffer from secondary infertility.
Wow.
So, after with the response that I got with Grown and Flown, and then when I posted the article to my Facebook, and the response that I got from just my friend group of sharing our story, because I mean, obviously our close friends know everything that
Mhm.
transpired. You have so many Facebook followers, friends that haven't seen you in years, or maybe not even know
Oh,
you
of
personally,
course. Yes.
that the response was overwhelming. And
Yeah.
I just enjoyed writing about it so much that that's where the idea came from. And so I've written, there's quite a lot of articles on there now and about various topics, not just secondary infertility. I have shared
Mhm.
a lot of stuff on there too about sports with my son. And I guess I'm in the process now of which direction do I take it? Do I
Mhm.
try and just have a focus and just have the focus be on the family with the gap? Or do I encompass all the things that I originally had planned to on it? But I think a lot of the sports came into play too because Charlotte has been such a big part of that. And I
Mhm.
think that a lot of women's fear with the age gap is how am I going to have a baby and a middle schooler or a high schooler? Or how am I going to have a baby and take them to all of these things? And so it really shows on there and, cute stories and stuff like that, how that has gone and how that's transpired with our family. And she has done amazing. She loves it. She asks, when are we going to baseball? When are we going to football? She gets so excited
So
about,
cute.
yeah, and who am I going to see? And where, of course, all the sisters, because all the sisters now of my son's friends are 11, 12, 13, 14.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's just fantastic for Charlotte to hang out with all her teenage friends. So I just wanted to create a space for women and just also as a glimmer of hope. Like, yes, you're
Yeah.
turning 35. Yes, you're turning 38. Yes, you're turning 40. Don't give up. There's
Yeah.
always a possibility.
Mhm.
So that's where it came from, and it's something that I really want to grow and spend time. I would like to make it my primary, I don't want to say job because it's not a job, but I mean it would be, I guess, my job and really help people. And I would like to create some sort of scholarship or I don't know if nonprofit is the right word, but something out of it to help people in some capacity. And whether that is helping women who are in this situation or helping kids to have the resources and the abilities to do all the stuff that we have been able to provide for my son to become the athlete that he has become. So yeah, I don't know what direction to go with that, but I am planning on doing something with it in
I
that
love it.
capacity.
It's
I know
beautiful.
I had a friend was over here the other day and she said to me, she was like, Jaclyn, you realize that this is what you're here for. Like secondary infertility happened to you. You are a success story and it needs to be shared. So that really hit me. And I'm like, you know what? I need to get back at this and really focus on doing this.
I couldn't agree more. And I love that she told you that. I was literally getting that same vibe from you. And I was going to say something very similar. And just like that story, what story it is, what avenue you take, I don't think it really matters. What matters is that you're sharing, hey, this was a success for me. I'm a woman. I had my baby at 40. I have, 11-year age gap. This is how we manage our family. This is our day to day. I think that in and of itself alone is empowering and people could find inspiration from. So I love that you got that advice. I could not agree more.
Yes. And the day to day is pretty comical.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
It is so funny. I know this morning I was going to, Kale had to be at football at 8. And then obviously we had this scheduled today at 9, and she would need to get to school sometime in between there. And my
Mhm.
husband's traveling, of course, because he travels most of the time. And I'm like, all right, if I bring her stuff, we can get ready in the car and I'll drop her off at school on the way back. And it's just always such a game at how we're going to figure it. And she thinks it's all great. Like she eats her breakfast in the car and she's doing this and she's doing that. But ironically enough, and this is would make people laugh, and this just goes to show how when you have a little one that's raised in the environment that she is in, she had a sleepover last night with the teenage girls, who's our best family friend,
Mhm.
down the street.
Mhm.
And she was so excited. She was skipping school today. They're taking her to a movie. So I didn't have to get her dressed in the car and take her to school
Oh
today.
my gosh.
But she's been having sleepovers there for years. Like,
Yeah.
she just thinks that she is big time with the big
Oh
girls.
my gosh. What a sweetheart. I can't even imagine how fun. How fun. How
Yeah,
incredible.
I know. I stopped in there and saw her this morning on my way back and dropped off the car seat. And she was like in a panic that I was there to get her. I'm like, don't worry, you're staying.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
It's so cute.
Yeah, she's funny. She's a
Sweet.
mess.
I mean, aren't we all? I love it.
Yeah.
Jaclyn, from our conversation and all kind of the little pockets we hit, is there anything that you want to expand a little bit more on?
I think I think the biggest question that you had in the beginning, and I think this is probably a big focus of your podcast, is what have I learned, obviously being
Yes.
a mom, and what do I think
Yep.
was different from what I originally had planned. My biggest advice, and a lot of people will probably think that I'm crazy, you might think that I'm crazy,
But
is I was, and I can't even believe that I was this person, but I was the crazy schedule person mom with my son.
mhm,
And I think it was
mhm,
driven a lot by my husband.
mhm,
He has three little sisters, but they are from his dad's second marriage. So he grew up as an only
mhm,
child in his mom's home and did wasn't around his little sisters when they were small. So he came into this marriage and having kids not really with a lot of experience of ever being around children. So we have to go home, our son has to nap. No, we can't go out to dinner because he goes to bed at
mhm,
7 o'clock and it can't be
mhm.
7:15. It has to be 7 o'clock.
Right.
To
No
where
flexibility. Yeah.
we made ourselves crazy. Like absolutely
Mhm,
crazy. I would remember
mhm,
sitting at my desk. Had my office was at home when he was little, and it would be the weekend and he wasn't going to sleep, wasn't taking his nap, and I would be like almost in tears. What am I going to do? He's not napping.
mhm,
This can't happen.
mhm,
This is going to ruin the whole day.
mhm,
And I have learned since having Charlotte and her having to be on her brother's schedule, there's no schedule. She has no schedule. And she is so much more functioning than he ever was.
mhm,
Like we laugh and joke.
mhm,
She can nap, she can stay awake, she can stay up till midnight. She'll sleep in the morning. Like she'll fall asleep in the car. It's fine. Everything's fine. So whenever somebody says to me like what it would be your advice, I'm like throw the schedule out the window because you will just drive yourself
mhm,
insane with it. And now
mhm,
again, there has to be some sort of, normalcy, when you're home and you can be normal. But just communicating with her and now, if she's exhausted and she needs a nap, I just tell her like, "Hey, you're really tired, you're really tired, you're going to feel so much better." And she'll nap. It's amazing.
mhm,
So, yeah, that was probably the biggest piece of advice that I could give. And then I had mentioned to you that I wrote a list of things that I'm not good at, and
mhm,
this would go along with advice. I have never been good at prioritizing time with my husband. I always put my work, the kids, all that stuff first. And obviously, he deals with it and it's fine. But I know that as a wife, that is definitely something that I could work on. And ever since the kids were little, let them go be with a babysitter. Let them not
mhm,
have their schedule and go do something different so that you can spend time with your husband. And then prioritizing time for myself. And I still don't. I'm terrible at it. So I think there's one more thing. Oh, and then I overschedule and then cause myself a lot of anxiety. Overschedule. I will always cram way too many things in my day. And then
Yeah.
I'm pissed off that I can't get it all done.
You're like,
And then I
who
start
put this
yelling.
on my schedule? Yeah.
Right. And I'm like slamming things in the kitchen and I'm all angry with everybody, but nobody's helping me.
Right.
And I didn't ask
Oh,
for help. So yeah, sometimes I can be a mess, but yeah, I just would be my advice. So
Oh, that's beautiful advice. Seriously. I personally am taking it all in. I love it. I think that's beautiful advice. That's exactly it. And I think, perspective is in hindsight, and I love that you have a completely different approach with your second.
oh my gosh, yeah, it's comical. And then I let her drink soda. That's terrible, but she has some here and there.
Yeah. Oh
She's
my
funny
gosh, I
though.
love it.
Yeah. And my son says, "You let her get away with everything." And I'm like,
Mm.
well, you know, not really. She's a really good girl, but I feel like
Mhm.
girls need to be way more like sassy. They need to be able to speak up. So I try not to laugh when my husband will tell her to do something and she's, "Dad, but I'm doing this right now." And I'm like, "Oh my God." But
You're
she is a
like,
very
keep
good
at it.
girl. Yeah, she doesn't
Yeah.
get in trouble and she doesn't get in trouble at school. So she is very, very good, but she is sassy. So,
Oh my
but
gosh,
we
it's
love her.
so cute.
Tiny and mighty is what she is.
Oh, Jaclyn, thank you so much. This was beautiful. Thank
You
you. It
are
was
so welcome.
amazing.
And thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening to It's a Circus. If today's episode made you feel a little less alone, share it with a friend who might need it too. We are building something amazing at the Turner Brothers Circus, an entire space designed for parents to find connection, laughter, and support. I'd love for you to be a part of it. Remember, you're doing better than you think. Stay grounded, stay real, and embrace that beautiful mess. And as always, the show must go on. Until next time.